So there are 7 questions that I ask every supplier, and I try to be as complete as I can in a message. So whether I'm sending them an email or sending them a message through whatever platform I found them on, I always ask these same 7 questions. And I think that this limits the back and forth. I try to lay it all out there on my first point of contact, and then based on their response, I can make a decision whether this is a company I want to continue my conversation with or not. So the first question I ask is minimum order quantity, and MOQ. This is a phrase that I was not familiar with when I first got started, but MOQ is very important because, and let me give you the definition first. This is the minimum amount of products that they will manufacture in one batch for you. So for instance, some suppliers will have an MOQ of 10,000 units. Well, if you're just wanting to test a product and see if it actually works, you're going to tie up a ton of cash with 10,000 units. And so I prefer to have low MOQ suppliers. In fact, I have one domestic supplier that they don't have an MOQ. If I want 1 unit, I can order 1 unit. Now, I don't know why they run their business that way, but it's super convenient for me. And I don't tie up as much cash as I would with my other suppliers that have MOQs of, say, 500 or 1,000 units. So first, right out of the gate, I always ask about MOQ. The second question I ask is, can I customize this product by changing colors, adding a logo, or modifying the size? This is a very subtle way to ask, are you a manufacturer or a trading company? Now, sometimes trading companies can interact with the manufacturers and do customizations, but oftentimes when I identify a product, I'm wanting to improve it and set it apart from what is commercially available. And so this customization piece is really important to me. And if the answer to this is no, I can't customize this, often I won't move forward with that supplier. So I want someone that's going to be flexible and work with me, and that's where this customization question comes in.
David, I just want to jump in real quick and say that is actually a very crucial piece that I kind of want to highlight here on your second bit, where you're asking them if they can modify the product or change it in any certain way. I would always recommend to modify or change your product to make it better from any other competitors, right? So that is a really crucial piece, and I just wanted to highlight that. Go ahead, thanks.
Yeah, or even add a logo. I mean, you talk about getting your listings ripped off. That's an easy way. It's a hurdle that if someone wanted to rip off your listings and sell your product, that's a hurdle that they would need to overcome.
Yeah, branding is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Must have.
Absolutely. So the third question I ask is, are you a manufacturer or a trading company? And you already discussed this, but I like to have relationships with manufacturers. You had mentioned a positive relationship with a trading company, so I don't think that if someone responds, yes, I'm a trading company, I don't think that that's a total turnoff, but in the pros and cons column, that would be something I definitely want to consider. The fourth question I ask is, how much would a sample be? And for people that are doing this for the first time, don't be surprised if they come back with $250 or $300, even if the product would sell for 15 or 20 bucks. And the reason for that is if they need to set up their machine, or they need to make a mold, or just getting one product from China to the United States costs some money. And so you had talked about using a sourcing agent, and I think that's huge. If I'm contacting 10 suppliers, having the sourcing agent look at those first before they're shipped over here, that's a great way to save, a couple of $1,000. But I like to know what my sample is and just get that out up front.
Yeah, and something for our listeners, that price, that sticker shock of $250, $300, it's kind of it's all over the place, really. It depends on the size and the weight of your product, and you obviously want to get it shipped express, meaning it's going to be on an airplane and it's going to be coming in 3 to 5 days. But I have experienced fees of getting samples anywhere from, on the low end, $50 all the way up to, like David mentioned, $250, $300 if it's a large, heavy, product.
Absolutely, and don't let that sticker shock prevent you from getting a sample. I mean, there are many instances where I've seen something in a picture that looks great, and then it shows up and it's terrible. It's just a poorly constructed product, and so
The okey doke is what I like to call that.
yeah, exactly. And so that's a sample cost. It is a sunk cost, but I do think it's definitely worth it. And if you're going to move forward with a supplier, analyze how they build one unit before you order 1,000. So
Yeah, absolutely.
the fourth question I ask is, are there any shipping costs, packaging costs, or tariffs that you are aware of? And the answer to this is typically yes. What I am looking for is a fully loaded cost. So if something is $4 a unit just for manufacturing, there's going to be some costs incurred to get that from wherever it's manufactured to either a fulfillment center or to your warehouse. And packaging costs, tariffs, I like to know all of my costs. And so I talk a lot about margin, and in the per unit cost is important. In this example, $4, but oftentimes when you consider shipping, packaging, tariffs, there's 10 or 15% more cost there than what's accounted for in the per unit cost. So that $4 product may actually be, $4.50 or $5. And knowing that on the front end is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So as of right now, we're taping this podcast, January 25th, and the current tariffs are on most of my products, if not all of them, that I import from China are 30%. So that has to be baked into the cost of launching a new product, or you run the risk of not knowing your numbers, which is not good at all. So hopefully, maybe by the time you're listening to this, or sometime soon, the tariffs, the Trump tariffs, I said the word, yes, Trump tariffs are, hopefully they're gone. But at the time of this taping, 30% for tariffs have to be baked into your numbers.
So Ken, I'm glad you brought up the tariffs, and there's one phrase I've heard, and I'm not sure who said it, but it was fail on paper. And by only considering your unit cost and by not considering your shipping costs or your tariffs, you really are setting yourself up for failure. For instance, a product may look great and have a 30 or 40% margin, but once you consider shipping costs and tariffs, that 30% or 40% margin disappears. And so get a really good understanding of your costs and fail on paper first before you lay out the cash for your initial order. The fifth question I ask every supplier is, do you ship via air, sea, or both? And what I really like the response to be here is both. Now, sea shipping is less expensive, but it takes longer. And air shipping obviously is faster and it's more expensive. And so what I often do, if I have my inventory management under control, I like to sea ship as much as I can. It's more money in my pocket. But as happens with most businesses, I will not have great control over my inventory. I'll sell out, or I am anticipating selling out. And I'll ask my supplier, hey, can 20% of this order, can we air ship it? And then the other 80% of it, can we sea ship it? And that kind of is a way to expedite the shipping process, so your items aren't stuck on a boat and you're sitting with a listing with no inventory for a month or two. That really kills ranking. And so I really like manufacturers that will do both sea and air shipping.
Before we move on, I want to really highlight what you just said, David. That was kind of a higher level technique. So early on in my business, I used air shipping mostly, right? You want the products to market, get it launched. And then once the product's launched, okay, I'm selling 5 a day, you can kind of forecast out for your inventory for a few months. And then you might want to move into sea shipping. And the reason you would want to do that is the cost is way cheaper. I don't have any figures in front of me right now, but I would say that probably 75% cheaper for sea shipping, right? But then you also tie up cash flow, because sea shipping takes, 2 months, on average from factory to, warehouse shelf. So, but, if you're out of inventory and you have an order that's due, you can ship, 20% like you said, air, right? And then the other 80% by sea. And you're going to be in stock quicker, you're going to be making profit more, and then you have the other one coming in saving costs. So I wanted to highlight that. That was a really good advanced kind of technique to, make more profit. That's what it's all about, right?
The last question I ask is, what is your preferred method of communication? Typically in the U.S., this is email. I've found, especially with international suppliers, email is not the preferred method of communication. I use WeChat a lot to communicate with my Chinese suppliers, and that seems to work really well. I was unfamiliar with WeChat, but it interfaces with your phone, and you can download the desktop application, and it's pretty slick. And so, again, you're trying to form a relationship, and the more you can cater to your supplier and make things easy on them, the more likely they're going to cater to you and make things easy on you. And so I always like to know that. So if my initial contact is, say, through an Alibaba message, my second method of contact would be through whatever their preferred method of communication is. That way everything's in one spot.
Yeah, that's huge. And one thing I'd like to highlight, David, on WeChat, the crucial piece to WeChat is, it's your suppliers in China, and they're communicating in Mandarin, and we're in the U.S. and we're reading WeChat translates from Mandarin to U.S. English. So when suppliers communicating in Mandarin, we get the message in WeChat and it's in English, right? So you can communicate and it's done automatically for you. So just to highlight that's huge.
Perfect. So those are 7 questions I ask every supplier. Again, if you want this list, go ahead and go to www.firingtheman.com/suppliers, and next time you reach out to a supplier, you can give these a try.